The bright screens in the United Space Command Center lit up all at once. It was 3:42 a.m. on June 12, 2087, when humanity's deep space sensors detected something no one had seen before. 12 large objects were moving into the solar system, slowing down as they approached Mars. Commander Alan Pierce was woken from a sound sleep by the emergency alert. He rushed to the command center, still pulling on his uniform jacket. "Report," he ordered, his voice rough from sleep, but his mind now fully alert. "Sir, we have multiple unknown objects entering the solar system," replied Officer Ryan Cooper, his fingers flying over the control panel. "They're big, sir. Much bigger than anything we have." Alan stared at the main screen, watching the unknown objects settle into orbit around Mars. They were sleek, almost beautiful in design, with smooth curves and a gleaming surface that reflected the distant sun. "Send the first contact message package," he ordered. The package contained basic information about Earth, humanity, and peaceful intentions, created years ago for exactly this moment. 3 tense hours passed before they got a response. The message came in perfect English, which scared the command staff more than it calmed them. "Greetings, people of Earth. We are the Zorinthian Collective, travelers from beyond your stars. We come in peace and friendship, seeking to welcome you to the galactic community." Within hours, the news spread across Earth. Humanity was not alone. The aliens called themselves the Zorinthians, and they wanted to meet. Chief Engineer Samantha Wells adjusted her uniform nervously as she prepared to board the shuttle. She had been chosen as part of the first contact team, along with Commander Pierce and 4 others. "Remember," Alan said quietly to the team, "we represent all of humanity today." The shuttle carried them from Earth to the largest Zorinthian ship. As they approached, Samantha was struck by the size of the alien vessel. It was at least 5 times larger than Earth's biggest space station. The docking went smoothly. When the airlock opened, they met the Zorinthians for the first time. The aliens stood nearly 7 feet tall with slim bodies covered in smooth, pale blue skin. They had 4 arms and large, dark eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. "Welcome," said the lead Zorinthian, its voice coming through a small device on its chest. "I am High Ambassador Zortek. We have waited many cycles to find another intelligent species ready to join us among the stars." The meetings went well. The Zorinthians offered to share technology and knowledge. They spoke of a galactic community with hundreds of species living and working together. They promised to help humanity build better ships, cleaner energy systems, and more advanced computers. Many on Earth celebrated this new friendship. News channels showed the alien ships and played the messages from the Zorinthians. World leaders spoke of a new age of peace and progress, but not everyone was convinced. Intelligence Officer Lawrence Garcia sat alone in his small office, surrounded by screens showing Zorinthian data streams. For 3 weeks he had been watching and listening to everything the aliens shared, and something didn't feel right. "Computer, run comparison again," he said, rubbing his tired eyes. The computer displayed 2 messages side by side. Both were from the Zorinthians, but one was sent to Earth's leaders, and the other was sent between Zorinthian ships. Lawrence had managed to intercept and partly decode the second message. The public message talked about sharing technology. The private message mentioned strategic acquisition and gradual integration protocols. Lawrence had seen enough intelligence work to know when someone was hiding something. The Zorinthians were saying one thing but planning another. It took him days of careful work to break into more of their communications. What he found turned his blood cold. The Zorinthians weren't offering friendship. They saw Earth as a resource to be claimed. Their plan was to make humans dependent on their technology, then slowly take control. The worst part was how normal this seemed to be for them. They had done it before, many times, to other species across the galaxy. Lawrence gathered his evidence and requested an urgent meeting with his superiors. Hours later, he sat in a secure room with Commander Pierce, Samantha Wells, and Admiral William Foster, the head of United Space Command. "Are you absolutely sure about this?" Admiral Foster asked after reviewing the data. "Yes, sir," Lawrence replied. They're positioning ships throughout our solar system. They call them diplomatic vessels, but they're armed. They're mapping our defenses, and they're not sharing their real technology with us, just enough to make us trust them. Why not just attack us directly? Samantha asked. Because they don't need to, Lawrence explained. Why fight a war when you can simply walk in the front door? They want our resources and our planet, not a damaged battlefield. The room fell, silent as the implications sank in. Earth had just met its first aliens, and they were predators wearing friendly smiles. What do we do now? Commander Pierce finally asked. If we confront them, they could attack immediately. Their ships outclass anything we have. Admiral Foster stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the night sky was clear, stars shining brightly. Somewhere up there, the Zorinthians were watching, waiting, planning. We play along, he said finally. We smile and thank them for their help. We act like we don't know. He turned back to face the others, his expression grim but determined. And, meanwhile, we start building something they won't expect, something that can fight back. Samantha leaned forward. What did you have in mind, sir? A ship, Admiral Foster replied. A warship unlike anything Earth has ever built. We'll use what we learn from them against them. We don't have the technology, Commander Pierce pointed out. Then we'll make it, Foster said firmly. We're good at that. Humanity has always been good at making things, especially when our survival depends on it. Lawrence nodded slowly. They think we're just primitive newcomers. That could be our advantage. As the meeting ended and they went their separate ways, each carried the weight of their secret knowledge. Above them, more Zorinthian ships entered the solar system each week, bringing gifts and promises. The clock was ticking. Earth needed a defender, and they would have to build it right under the enemy's watching eyes. The secret meeting took place deep under the Rocky Mountains, in a bunker built during the old Cold War. 12 people sat around a large table, each representing different parts of Earth's defense and scientific communities. At the head of the table sat Admiral Catherine Doyle, her gray hair cut short and her eyes sharp with determination. Let's begin Project Nemesis, she said, pressing a button that sealed the room completely. No signals could get in or out. As of this moment, what we discuss here does not exist. The screens on the wall showed images of the Zorinthian ships now positioned throughout the solar system. For 6 months, the aliens had been helping humanity build better spaceships and defense systems. But thanks to Intelligence Officer Garcia's discoveries, those at the highest levels knew the truth. They're watching everything we build in our known facilities, Admiral Doyle continued. So we need to build somewhere they aren't looking. She pulled up a new image, a cluster of asteroids between Mars and Jupiter. We've been mining these rocks for years. The Zorinthians think it's just a resource operation, but Mining Station Delta 9 is going to become our secret shipyard. Dr. Frank Morrison, a tall man with wild gray hair and the world's leading expert on advanced propulsion, raised his hand. We can't just build a better version of our current ships. The Zorinthians would still crush us. We need something completely new. That's why you're here, Doctor, Catherine nodded. You and your team will develop a new propulsion system, one that can outrun and outmaneuver anything they have. She turned to a younger woman with short black hair and intense focus in her eyes. Patricia Collins, your weapons team will create something that can punch through their shields. Patricia nodded. We've been studying the data from their ships. I think we can develop something they won't expect. And Kevin Zhao, Admiral Doyle continued, looking at a quiet man who rarely spoke but whose work in artificial intelligence had changed the world. Your job might be the most important. We need an AI system that can think faster than their battle. Computers. Kevin simply nodded once, his mind already working on the challenge. What about materials? Asked Patricia. We can't exactly order alien-grade metals from our usual suppliers without the Zorinthians noticing. Admiral Doyle smiled slightly. That's actually our one advantage. The Zorinthians think they're being clever by giving us limited access to their technology. But every sample, every piece of equipment they've shared has been carefully studied. We know more about their tech than they think we do. The Admiral stood and walked around the table. This will be the most important project in human history. We have 3 years at most before the Zorinthians move to the next phase of their plan. By then, we need to have our answer ready. 1 year later, mining station Delta 9 had changed beyond recognition. From the outside, it still looked like a typical asteroid mining operation. But inside the largest asteroid, a massive chamber had been hollowed out, large enough to hold a ship bigger than anything humanity had built before. Dr. Frank Morrison floated in the zero gravity of his lab, watching as his team tested the new engine core. The blue-white plasma swirled in beautiful, dangerous patterns inside the containment field. Power output is stable at 400% above projected needs, reported his assistant, Lisa Patel, her voice excited despite her professional tone. The antimatter containment is holding perfectly. Frank allowed himself a small smile. Begin the Phantom Drive simulation. On the other side of the asteroid, Patricia Collins stood before a massive cannon, its inner workings exposed as technicians made final adjustments. The problem with traditional weapons, she explained to Admiral Doyle, who was visiting the project, is that they try to put a hole in something, but the Zorinthians have incredibly strong hulls. She patted the huge device. This doesn't try to put a hole in their ships. It temporarily warps space-time around a targeted area, creating massive stress that tears the target apart from the inside. Will it work? Asked the Admiral. Patricia nodded. We've tested it on samples of their hull material. Nothing they have can withstand it. Meanwhile, in a quiet, heavily shielded room filled with humming computers, Kevin Zhao sat alone, his fingers dancing across multiple keyboards. On the screens around him, complex patterns formed and dissolved as his new AI system learned and evolved. Show me battle scenario Theta 9 again, he said softly. The screens shifted to show a simulation of a space battle. A human ship, still only a concept, faced 3 Zorinthian cruisers. The AI controlling the human vessel moved in ways no human pilot could, predicting enemy actions and responding with impossible speed. All across the asteroid, thousands of engineers, scientists and workers moved with purpose, building something unprecedented. They had sacrificed much to be here. Many had not seen their families for months, living in secret to keep the project hidden. Back on Earth, the deception continued. Human leaders smiled and thanked the Zorinthians for their generous help, while secretly feeding them designs that seemed advanced, but contained subtle flaws. The new defense platform looks impressive, said High Ambassador Zortek, as he toured Earth's new orbital station with a group of human officials. We couldn't have built it without your guidance, replied the Earth Defense Minister, his smile hiding his true thoughts. Across the solar system, more Zorinthian ships arrived each month. They called them cultural exchange vessels and trading posts, but intelligence officer Garcia's team had confirmed they all carried weapons. 2 years and 8 months after Project Nemesis began, Admiral Doyle stood in the observation room, overlooking the massive construction bay. Tears filled her eyes as she saw the nearly completed ship. It stretched almost 2 kilometers from bow to stern, its dark hull reflecting little light. The shape was like nothing built by human hands before, part predator, part ghost, designed to strike fear even before it fired a shot. Does it have a name yet? Asked Kevin Zhao, who had joined her at the window. Catherine nodded. The USS Vindicator. Appropriate, said Kevin quietly. How much time do we have left? The Admiral checked her secure tablet. Intelligence says the Zorinthians are accelerating their timeline. They're activating weapons on all their ships in the system. We might have less than 2 months before they make their move. She looked back at the massive ship, humanity's secret hope. Will it be ready in time? Asked Kevin. It has to be, Catherine answered simply. Because if it's not, there won't be a human race left to finish it. The final weeks of work on the USS Vindicator were intense. Engineers worked around the clock, sleeping in short shifts before returning to their stations. Everyone felt the pressure of the ticking clock as more Zorinthian ships moved into position around Earth. Captain Jason Russell walked through the massive ship that would soon be under his command. At 42, he had been chosen for his calm thinking in crisis situations and his ability to make tough decisions. He had left his family on Earth 6 months ago, telling them only that he was on a classified mission. He wondered if he would ever see them again. "Impressive, isn't it?" asked Commander Diana Foster, his executive officer, as she joined him on the observation deck. Through the massive window they could see workers in spacesuits making final adjustments to the outer hull. "I've never seen anything like it," Jason admitted. The Vindicator was truly a marvel. Almost 2 kilometers long, it had a sleek design, with a pointed front that spread out into wide wings toward the back, giving it a shape like an arrowhead or a predatory bird. "Let me show you what makes it special," Diana said, leading him through the ship's key areas. They started in the engine room, where Dr. Frank Morrison was directing the final power tests. The heart of the ship pulsed with blue-white energy contained in magnetic fields. "This is our hybrid propulsion system," Frank explained proudly. "It combines fusion power with controlled antimatter reactions. For normal travel, we use the fusion drive. But when we need speed or power, we add the antimatter reaction." He pointed to a separate system surrounded by special shielding. "And this is the Phantom Drive. It doesn't move the ship through space in the normal way. Instead, it folds space around us, letting us appear and disappear across the battlefield almost instantly." Next, they visited the weapons center, where Patricia Collins was running targeting tests. On multiple screens, simulated targets were being destroyed in various ways. "Our main weapon is the Singularity Lance," she said, showing them a massive cannon built into the front of the ship. "It creates a focused distortion in spacetime that tears apart anything in its path. No shield the Zorinthians have can stop it because it affects the fabric of space itself." She gestured to other stations around the room. "We also have energy beam arrays, missile systems, and defensive shields that can absorb enemy fire and convert it to energy we can use." Their tour continued to the drone bay, where hundreds of small autonomous craft waited in launch racks. "Each drone has its own AI," Diana explained. "They can act as fighters, interceptors, or repair units. They work together like a swarm of intelligent insects communicating faster than any human pilot could." Finally, they reached the bridge, the command center of the massive ship. Unlike the cramped bridges of older space vessels, this one was spacious, with workstations arranged in a circular pattern around a central command area. "And this is where you'll sit, Captain," Diana said, gesturing to the command chair. Jason ran his hand along the arm of the chair, feeling the weight of responsibility. "Will it be enough?" he asked quietly. "Can we really stand against their entire fleet?" Before Diana could answer, an alarm sounded throughout the ship. Red lights flashed as the ship-wide communication system activated. "All personnel, this is Admiral Doyle. We have just received word from Earth Intelligence. The Zorinthians have begun activating weapon systems on all their ships in Earth orbit. Their attack is imminent. We are accelerating our launch timeline. All crews to battle stations, I repeat, all crews to battle stations." The bridge erupted into activity as crew members rushed to their positions. Navigation Officer Eric Hayes, a former racing pilot known for his uncanny spatial awareness, took his station at the helm. "Can we launch?" Jason asked as Admiral Doyle entered the bridge. "We have no choice," she replied grimly. "The Vindicator is at 97% completion. The Phantom Drive hasn't been fully tested in real conditions, and some of the weapon systems are still being calibrated, but the ship is operational." She handed Jason a datapad with his official orders. "Captain Russell, I am hereby transferring command of the USS Vindicator to you. Your mission is to defend Earth and neutralize the Zorinthian threat by any means necessary." Jason took the pad and signed it, making the transfer official. "I understand, Admiral. The Zorinthians believe they're about to execute a swift, clean takeover of a primitive species," Admiral Doyle said, looking around at the advanced bridge of the most powerful ship humans had ever built. "Let's show them how wrong they are." As the Admiral left to return to her command post, Jason took his place in the captain's chair for the first time. Around him, his crew worked with focused efficiency, preparing the massive ship for its first voyage. "Status report," he ordered. "Engine room reports ready, Captain," Diana confirmed. Phantom drive is charged, but untested. Weapons systems at 89% and rising, reported Weapons Officer Nicole Martinez from her station. Drone swarms prepped and ready for deployment, added Security Chief Paul Wilson. Navigation ready, sir, Eric Hayes said from the helm. Course plotted for Earth orbital insertion once we clear the asteroid base. Jason took a deep breath and looked at the tactical display showing the Zorinthian ships moving into attack positions around Earth. His home, his family, everything humanity had built over thousands of years. Communications. Send word to Admiral Doyle that we're ready, he ordered. Shield control. Bring defensive systems online. Engine room. Start main power. Sequence. The ship hummed to life around them, systems powering up one by one as the massive vessel prepared for war. Open the bay doors, Jason commanded. It's time to introduce ourselves to the Zorinthians. The enormous doors of the asteroid base slowly parted, revealing the emptiness of space beyond. Earth was a distant blue dot, surrounded by the predatory shapes of alien vessels preparing to strike. Take us out, Mr. Hayes, Jason ordered. Ahead, 1/4 power. The USS Vindicator moved forward, emerging from its secret birthplace like a hunter leaving its den. Humanity's first star destroyer was about to make its presence known to the galaxy. The Zorinthian attack began at dawn. Without warning, their ships opened fire on Earth's orbital defense platforms. The few human ships in orbit were caught by surprise and quickly destroyed or disabled. Supreme Tactician Zalvex watched from the bridge of his command ship, the Eternal Dominion. He was tall even for a Zorinthian, with pale blue skin that had darkened with age around his forearms. His large eyes reflected the explosions happening on the view screen. The humans have no significant defense capability, reported his second-in-command. Their weapons are primitive. Most of their ships are not even armed. As expected, Zalvex said calmly. This species was not ready for the stars. They will serve the collective well once properly integrated. A junior officer approached with a datapad. Supreme Tactician, we've detected an anomaly. There appears to be a large object approaching from the asteroid belt. Zalvex took the pad and studied it. A mining vessel, perhaps? No matter. Continue the attack as planned. Prepare the integration protocols for deployment. On Earth, people watched in horror as the alien ships that had promised friendship now rained destruction on their defenses. Emergency broadcasts urged people to remain calm, but panic was spreading. Meanwhile, the USS Vindicator approached Earth at high speed, its advanced engines pushing it faster than any human ship had traveled before. Status report, Captain Russell ordered as they neared the battle zone. Shields at full power, Commander Foster replied. Weapons systems ready. Drone swarms standing by. The Zorinthians have destroyed 4 defense platforms and 6 ships, reported Communications Officer Maria Rodriguez, her voice tight with anger. They're targeting military installations across the planet now. Captain Russell's face hardened. Navigation, plot an intercept course with the largest enemy vessel. Weapons, prepare the Singularity Lance for demonstration. Sir, Eric Hayes called from navigation. I've identified their command ship. It's the largest vessel in their fleet positioned at the rear of their formation. Perfect, Russell nodded. That's our target. Let's show them what humanity can do. The Vindicator accelerated toward the Zorinthian fleet, still unnoticed as the aliens focused their attention on Earth's failing defenses. Phantom drive charge, sir, reported Engineer Samantha Wells from the engine room. Ready on your command. Execute, Russell ordered. The space around the Vindicator seemed to bend and twist. For a moment, the ship appeared to stretch impossibly, and then it vanished. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, alarms suddenly blared. Supreme Tactician, shouted a sensor officer. Unknown vessel detected. It's right behind us. The Vindicator reappeared behind the Zorinthian command ship, its massive form dwarfing many of the alien vessels. Before the Zorinthians could react, the human ship opened fire. The Singularity Lance activated, a beam of distorted space-time lancing out from the front of the ship. It struck one of the smaller Zorinthian cruisers. The alien vessel didn't explode, in the conventional sense. Instead, it seemed to collapse in on itself, the hull crumpling like paper as space itself warped around it. Impossible! Zalvex stood from his command chair, all four hands gripping the console before him. What is that weapon? Where did that ship come from? It's human design, stammered his science officer in disbelief. But it contains technology far beyond what they should possess. All ships, concentrate fire on the human vessel, Zalvex ordered. The Zorinthian fleet turned its attention from Earth to the Vindicator, dozens of energy weapons firing at once. The barrage hit, the human ship's shields which flared bright blue but held. Shields holding at 82%, reported Diana Foster. Their weapons are powerful, but nothing we didn't anticipate. Deploy Drone Swarm Alpha, Russell commanded. Target their weapons systems. From the belly of the Vindicator, hundreds of small drones launched, forming a cloud that moved with impossible coordination. They swarmed around the nearest Zorinthian ships, firing precise shots at weapons emplacements and sensors. Secondary weapons, target the support vessels, Russell continued. Mr. Hayes, prepare for evasive pattern Delta. Aye, Captain, Eric replied, his hands dancing across the controls. The Vindicator moved in ways that defied conventional space travel, banking and rolling like an aircraft in atmosphere. The Zorinthian targeting systems couldn't keep up with the unpredictable movements. On the Eternal Dominion, Zalvex watched in growing horror as ship after ship in his fleet reported critical damage. This is impossible, he muttered. They are a primitive species. They should not have this technology. Supreme Tactician, his communications officer called out. We're receiving a transmission from the human vessel. Put it through, Zalvex ordered. The main screen changed to show Captain Russell sitting calmly in his command chair. This is Captain Jason Russell of the Earthship Vindicator. You came to our system claiming peace while planning conquest. You thought us weak and primitive. That was your first mistake. As Russell spoke, the Vindicator fired its singularity lance again, this time at a larger Zorinthian battleship. The alien vessel twisted and compressed before breaking apart. Your second mistake, Russell continued, was giving us time to prepare. We've studied your technology, improved upon it, and created something you never expected. Human, Zalvex replied, struggling to maintain his composure. You cannot hope to defeat the entire Zorinthian collective. This ship is merely one of thousands. Submit now and your species may still find a place of service in the Galactic Order. Russell smiled slightly. We're not interested in your order, and this isn't about winning a single battle. This is about sending a message. He leaned forward in his chair. Earth is not yours to take, humanity is not yours to conquer. Leave our system now, or the next shot will be aimed at your command ship. Before Zalvex could respond, the Vindicator's phantom drive activated again. The massive human ship vanished, only to reappear moments later directly in front of the Eternal Dominion. Final warning, Russell said. Retreat or be destroyed. Zalvex looked at the tactical display. Half his fleet was already damaged or destroyed. Nothing in their experience had prepared them for a ship that could move like this, with weapons that worked on principles they didn't fully understand. All ships, he commanded, his voice tight with rage and fear. Fall back to Rally Point Omega. Send word to the collective, we need reinforcements. As the Zorinthian fleet began to retreat, cheers erupted on the Vindicator's bridge. They're running, exclaimed Nicole Martinez from Weapons Control. But Captain Russell remained serious. This is just the beginning, he said. They'll be back with more ships and better prepared. But now they know something they didn't know before. What's that, sir? Asked Commander Foster. Russell looked at the retreating Zorinthian ships on the view screen. That humanity bites back. News travels fast, even across the emptiness of space. Within days, word of the battle between humans and Zorinthians spread through the galaxy's communication networks. In distant star systems, alien species watched recordings of the USS Vindicator in action. They saw how it appeared and disappeared across the battlefield using its phantom drive. They witnessed the devastating power of the Singularity Lance as it tore apart Zorinthian capital ships. Is this real? Asked an Iridian scientist, his crystalline body glittering under the light of three suns. A new species defeated a Zorinthian battle group? Not just defeated, replied his colleague. They humiliated them. For centuries, the Zorinthian collective had expanded across the galaxy, absorbing or conquering dozens of species. Few had ever successfully resisted. None had driven them back so decisively. On the planet Novan Prime, telepathic beings shared the battle images directly from mind to mind, ripples of hope spreading through their collective consciousness for the first time in generations. The USS Vindicator did not rest after its first victory. Captain Russell and his crew began a campaign targeting Zorinthian military installations near Earth. Each successful mission added to Earth's growing reputation. We have confirmed the destruction of the Zorinthian weapons platform in the Kuiper Belt, reported Security Chief Paul Wilson. That's the third one this week. Captain Russell nodded, studying the star map in the command center. Red dots marked known Zorinthian positions. Many had already been crossed out. Where next, Captain? Asked Commander Foster. Here, Russell pointed to a large station orbiting Neptune. Intelligence says they're using it as a communication hub. Taking it out will blind their operations in this sector. After each victory, Communications Officer Maria Rodriguez broadcast a message to any who could hear. This is the Earthship Vindicator. We fight not for conquest, but for freedom. The Zorinthian collective's days of unchallenged dominance are over. These messages reached far beyond the solar system, giving hope to countless beings who had suffered under Zorinthian rule. Meanwhile, in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, representatives from dozens of species gathered for an emergency session. The massive chamber buzzed with excited conversation. For centuries, the council had been dominated by the Zorinthians and their allies, but now there was a shift in the air. Supreme High Counselor Zexvor, the Zorinthian representative, called for order. This human problem must be addressed immediately, he demanded. Their reckless technology threatens the stability of the galaxy. From the shadows at the back of the hall, a slender figure watched with interest. Ambassador Krell, of the ancient Kelthari race, had seen many species rise and fall over his long life. But these humans were different. They had accomplished in years what took others centuries. Perhaps, Krell whispered to himself, it is time for a new alliance. As the council argued, the USS Vindicator continued its mission, unaware that its actions were reshaping the political landscape of the entire galaxy. Earth was no longer an unknown world at the edge of space. It was becoming a symbol, a beacon for those who dared to resist. And somewhere in deep space, a massive Zorinthian armada was gathering, preparing to crush the human upstarts before their influence could spread further.